Most people see aging as inevitable bone loss, a fate that leaves them fragile and breakable. But the truth is that osteoporosis is not destiny. It's a disease that can steal independence in an instant and often goes unnoticed until the first fracture. But here's the hope, because in this episode, you'll learn 6 proven ways to strengthen your bones, protect your independence, and even reverse some of the losses you may have thought were permanent. Welcome back to the Senior Health Podcast, where wisdom and science come together to keep you strong after 60. Today, we're exploring the real science of bone density, the difference between osteopenia and osteoporosis, and what you can do right now to keep your skeleton as strong as your spirit. According to the National Institutes of Health, over 10 million Americans over 50 already have osteoporosis, and another 44 million have low bone density. So more than half of adults are at risk. Yet most don't know it until a fall changes everything. And the cost? Years of pain, preventable fractures, and the false belief that weak bones are just aging. So sitting across from me is Japan's oldest practicing physician, Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara. His perspective is not theory. It is proof that age does not have to equal decline. Doctor, good to have you here. Thank you, John. It's always a privilege. So, do you accept broken bones as normal? I don't, but I know many people that do. Most believe fractures are just part of growing old. And that's why we would love to know how old you are. Let us know in the comments. We should not accept it, because fragile bones are not fate. People lose height. They hunch. They fracture hips. And it is called getting old. But that is a mistake. It is often preventable. And the tragedy is that by ignoring it, we not only lose strength, we lose freedom. I have seen patients stop traveling, stop walking freely, even stop laughing the same way, all because of untreated bone loss. So, that is why today we will go step by step through 6 proven ways to build and protect bone density after 60. We will explore exercise, diet, hidden risks, and overlooked habits. If you'd like a clear, actionable roadmap, be sure to get our Stronger Bones After 60 Osteoporosis Guide, a full guide with a food, movement, and balance routines. You can start today. So, in other words, the symptoms might be visible, but if we misunderstand the cause, we chase the wrong solution. Indeed. And that's why we're here. Together, we'll uncover the 6 life-changing steps that turn weak bones into strong foundations for life after 60 and beyond. I remember visiting a patient in her 70s who slipped on a wet kitchen floor, and that single fall left her with a fractured hip and months of lost independence. What struck me most was that she wasn't frail. She wasn't careless. She simply didn't know her bones had become that vulnerable. It made me realize how many of us are walking around with hidden weakness, waiting for a moment that changes everything. I have seen that story repeated countless times. The danger is silent until it suddenly is not. Unbelievable, isn't it? So, let's begin there. Why do our bones lose strength so quickly after 60? And what makes this problem so widespread? Well, after 60, the balance between building bone and breaking it down shifts. Osteoblasts, the cells that create bone, slow down, while osteoclasts, the cells that dissolve bone, keep working. And add to this, the hormonal decline. Estrogen in women, testosterone in men, and the skeleton becomes more fragile. And yet, most people never notice until the first fracture reveals it. That's powerful, because so many seniors only discover osteoporosis after something breaks. So, do you think part of the problem is that people confuse normal aging with disease? Absolutely. Many assume a shrinking spine or aching hips are just the cost of getting older. But in truth, these are warning signs of bone loss that has been quietly advancing for years. In Japan, we see the same seniors mistaking medical conditions for natural aging. By ignoring the distinction, they lose time when prevention and even reversal could still be possible. So really, the danger is that subtle symptoms get misread, and by the time action is taken, it's too late. Yes, that is why awareness is the first medicine. When you understand the difference between aging and osteoporosis, you can finally protect yourself. That perspective really matters because it shifts the way we see every ache and fracture. And it makes me think of our Listeners right now, many of whom may already feel these changes without realizing the deeper cause. So, let's not waste any time. What is the very first step you recommend to start rebuilding bone strength after 60? The very first step is weight bearing exercise, because bones respond to pressure in the same way muscles do. When you place controlled stress on a bone, it triggers remodeling, a process where old bone tissue is replaced with stronger new tissue. This is why astronauts lose bone density in space. Without gravity, there is no load to stimulate repair. On Earth, however, even simple actions like walking or climbing stairs can become powerful signals to the skeleton. That makes sense. But is walking alone really enough? Walking is valuable, but it is only the foundation. For true gains in bone density, the body needs more intense signals such as lifting weights or gentle impact exercises like heel drops. These create micro-stresses that tell the body, strengthen here, reinforce here, prepare for more. I imagine some seniors hear that and immediately worry about injury, especially lifting heavier weights. How do you address that fear? It's an important concern. The key is to start light under guidance and build slowly. Research from the University of Sydney in the Life More trial showed that even postmenopausal women in their 70s improve bone density safely with supervised heavy resistance training. That means age alone is not the barrier. The method is what matters. Supervision, proper form, and gradual progression protect from harm while allowing real gains. And for those unable to lift weights, resistance bands, body weight height squats, and even standing from a chair repeatedly can still provide load. What matters is not perfection, but consistency. Without load, bones weaken. With it, they adapt and grow stronger, no matter the age. So, it really is about giving the bones a reason to grow stronger. Exactly. The body is always listening. If you give it silence, it fades. If you give it signal, it rebuilds. That reframes exercise completely. Because for so many people, exercise feels like punishment or a chore. But what you're describing is communication with the body, a conversation that keeps bones alive. And when I think about my patients, I see two patterns. Those who stayed active into their 70s and 80s rarely fractured, while those who slowed down too much often faced falls, surgeries, and long recoveries. It isn't about becoming an athlete, it's about keeping the skeleton awake. So, after exercise, what is the next tip you give your patients? Impact-based exercise. Because bones need more than steady pressure, they thrive on small shocks. When you land from a gentle jump or even a heel drop, the vibration tells the bone to thicken and reinforce itself. This is why activities like dancing, light jogging, or using a stepboard can be so powerful when done safely. Studies from the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research show that short bouts of impact exercise increase bone density in both the hip and spine. And in Japan, we often prescribe simple daily hops or stair descents as part of rehabilitation for seniors recovering from fractures. That's fascinating, because most people are told to avoid impact altogether as they get older. I've even had patients who stopped all activity after a fracture, thinking rest was the safest choice. But what you're saying suggests that avoiding impact completely might actually accelerate weakness rather than prevent it. Yes, rest has its place, but complete avoidance of impact leaves the bones without stimulation. The key is not to eliminate impact, but to scale it. For example, someone with severe osteoporosis may start with just heel drops while holding a chair for balance. As confidence and strength return, they can progress to step downs or small jumps. The science is clear. The bone responds best when challenged, but the challenge must be matched to the individual's safety and ability. So in other words, it isn't about pushing harder, but about finding the right level of stress for the skeleton to respond. Exactly. Safe stress is medicine. Absence of stress is decline. That's such an empowering shift because it shows seniors that they don't need to fear movement. They just need to choose the right kind. Now, if exercise and impact are two of the pillars, what's the third tip you give for building bone strength after 60? I would say it is balance training. Because strong bones mean little if a fall takes them down. In Japan, falls are the leading cause of hip fractures among seniors, and many happen not from weakness, but from lost coordination. By practicing balance daily, even just standing on one leg while brushing your teeth, you teach the brain, muscles, and bones to work together. Tai Chi, for example, has been shown in American and Japanese trials to reduce fall risk by up to 50%. And when balance improves, every step you take becomes a form of protection for your skeleton. That resonates with me because I've seen patients who had decent bone density but still fractured after a sudden fall. They weren't weak, but their reflexes just weren't fast enough to save them. And I think many listeners will recognize that feeling. The hesitation on stairs, the small wobble stepping off a curb, the moment when confidence is replaced by fear. Fear is what traps so many people. They stop moving because they fear falling. And ironically, that stillness makes falls more likely. Balance practice rewires the nervous system, so your body reacts automatically. A trip doesn't become a collapse. A wobble doesn't become a fracture. And the beauty is that it doesn't require special equipment. A hallway, a chair, even the kitchen counter can become a training space. Balance is not about age. It is about practice. So balance is really the bridge between exercise and safety. The thing that makes every other effort sustainable. Yes, strong bones matter only if they are protected by stability. Together, they create freedom. And that's the heart of it. Independence. Because a strong skeleton without balance is fragile and balance without strength is incomplete. When you combine the two, you create resilience. Which makes me wonder, beyond movement, what daily choices in diet or nutrition do the most to keep bones strong after 60? Yes, nutrition is basically the fourth tip, and it is inseparable from exercise. When it comes to bone health, calcium and vitamin D are often mentioned, but protein is just as important because bones are made of collagen as well as minerals. Without adequate protein, the minerals cannot form a strong structure. And studies from both the United States and Japan show that older adults often eat far less protein than they truly need. So, it's not just about drinking milk or taking a calcium pill. Correct. Protein, magnesium, vitamin K2, and even vitamin C all contribute to bone remodeling. In Japan, foods like Natto are priced because of their vitamin K2 content, which directs calcium into the bones rather than leaving it in the arteries. That is one reason Japanese elders maintain bone strength despite smaller frames. That's so interesting because in the US we often recommend supplements without much thought to food sources, and I think many listeners are wondering right now whether they're eating enough of the right things, not just swallowing pills. Exactly. Food should be the foundation, with the supplements as support only when necessary. Prunes, for example, have been shown to reduce bone loss, while leafy greens deliver magnesium and vitamin K. And without vitamin D, which often requires sunlight or supplementation, none of it works properly. A balanced plate does more for bones than a shelf of bottles. So really, it's about synergy. No single nutrient can carry the load on its own. Yes, bones are built by teamwork. Minerals, proteins, and vitamins each play their role. That really reframes bone health as something whole body, not just one pill or powder. And I think seniors listening can relate to the confusion. One doctor says calcium, another says vitamin D, someone else says collagen. It feels overwhelming when in reality it's about how these pieces work together. Which makes me wonder how much of bone health also comes down to lifestyle choices. Beyond food and movement. I mean, the daily habits that either protect or erode our skeleton over time. Well, sleep, for instance, regulates the hormones that govern bone turnover. Yet, seniors often dismiss poor sleep as normal. Smoking and heavy drinking both accelerate bone loss, but moderate alcohol, especially red wine in small amounts, can be protective. Sunlight exposure is another. In Japan, we encourage gentle morning walks, not just for activity, but for vitamin D. Stress management also matters because chronic cortisol release weakens bone. And finally, maintaining a healthy weight is critical. Too low and bones lack the load. Too high and joints bear excessive strain. So these are really the silent levers, the things people often don't connect directly to their bones, but that change their density over time. Precisely. Bones are living tissue and they respond to every choice we make daily. They are not static. They are Constantly listening. That's such an eye-opening way to see it because it means our bones are not fixed at 60 or 70, they're still alive, still responsive, still able to adapt. I've seen patients who assume nothing could be done and yet with sleep, diet, and careful exercise, their scans improved. That gives hope, and I think it makes the final piece of this conversation even more urgent because while lifestyle is powerful, many seniors still need medical monitoring. So doctor, what's the last tip you give when it comes to truly protecting bone health after 60? The final tip is medical monitoring. Because without measurement, we are guessing. A bone density scan known as a DEXA is the gold standard for knowing whether your skeleton is holding or slipping. These scans can reveal osteopenia before it becomes osteoporosis, giving people time to act. And when medication is necessary, it should be paired with lifestyle, never seen as a replacement. So you're saying the scan itself can be a turning point, not just a formality. Yes. Because numbers change the story. When people see their bone density score, it becomes real, not abstract. And with repeat scans, you can see the impact of your choices, whether exercise and nutrition are working or whether more support is needed. That's important. Because many seniors feel discouraged when they hear the word osteoporosis, as if it's too late. But what you're describing sounds more like a sliding scale where small improvements still matter and prevention is always worthwhile. Exactly. And the science supports that? Medications like bisphosphonates or newer biologics can slow bone loss dramatically, but they work best when the foundation of exercise and diet is already in place. Without movement, the bone cannot respond as fully. Without nutrition, the building blocks are missing. And without sleep or balance training, fractures can still occur despite medication. I have seen patients improve their bone scans. Yes. But what matters even more is how they live, how they walk, how they feel, how confident they are in daily life. This is why monitoring is not just medical. It is motivational. It shows seniors that change is still possible. So measurement becomes both treatment and encouragement. Correct? Awareness creates action and action keeps bones alive. That's such an encouraging way to end these 6 tips because it proves bone health isn't about resignation. It's about reclaiming control. And I think, for our listeners, the real takeaway is this: bone density isn't set in stone. It's living, changing, and waiting for you to give it a reason to strengthen. So doctor, for those listening who want to start today, what's the simplest first step you would recommend? The one action they can take before the day is over. The simplest step is to begin moving today, even if it is just standing from a chair 10 times. That small action signals the bones and muscles that they are still needed. Combine it with one calcium-rich food at your next meal and you have already begun. So it doesn't have to be complicated or overwhelming. No, the key is consistency, not intensity. One action repeated daily becomes strength. So even the smallest choice, if repeated, can shape the health of your bones. Yes, because the body listens to patterns, not moments. What you do regularly matters more than what you do once. That's a powerful reminder because so often people wait for the perfect plan before taking action. And in that waiting they lose precious time. But the truth is, starting small today is more valuable than starting big tomorrow. And if we can shift that mindset, every senior listening can walk away with a sense of agency, not fear. Which makes me want to close this conversation by asking, Doctor, what final message would you give to someone who still doubts they can change their bone health after 60? Consider buying our guide. It is never too late for your bones to listen and never too late for you to grow stronger. You can find it in the top comment.